In June of 2022, the United States Supreme Court decided the Dobbs case. It returned the issue of abortion to the American people through their states. While the Supreme Court was deliberating that case, my colleague and my friend, Senator Schumer, went over to the Supreme Court. And on the steps of the Supreme Court building, I was there. I remember it like it was yesterday. This is what Senator Schumer said. I quote, "I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. Not Justice Gorsuch. Not Justice Kavanaugh. I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh."
Moments like this rarely happen on the Senate floor, but when they do, Washington stops and listens. In a debate that was supposed to be routine, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. Senators leaned forward in their seats. Staffers whispered across the chamber. Cameras captured every second of a moment that would quickly spread across the country. Democrats had come prepared to push forward a new Supreme Court ethics bill, presenting it as a measure designed to ensure transparency and accountability within the highest court in the nation. But as the discussion unfolded, something unexpected happened. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana rose to speak. What followed was not a long speech filled with complicated legal arguments. Instead, it was something far more powerful. Kennedy decided to remind the chamber of words spoken years earlier, words that many had forgotten, but that would suddenly become the center of the entire debate. By the time he finished, the room was silent. Moments later, the Republican side of the chamber erupted in applause.
Right to object.
Senator from Louisiana.
Madam President, reserving the right to object. And with all the respect I can muster for Senator Durbin, and I mean that, Dick, I do not believe that most of my colleagues think this bill is about ethics. This bill is about abortion. In June of 2022, the United States Supreme Court decided the Dobbs case. It returned the issue of abortion to the American people through their states. While the Supreme Court was deliberating that case, my colleague and my friend, Senator Schumer, went over to the Supreme Court. And on the steps of the Supreme Court building, I was there. I remember it like it was yesterday. This is what Senator Schumer said. I quote, "I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. Not Justice Gorsuch. Not Justice Kavanaugh. I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you," Senator Schumer said, "if you go forward with these awful decisions." Close quote. What we're seeing today with this legislation, in my opinion, but most senators agree with me, is part of the promised whirlwind. And I do not believe that we should try to undermine the integrity of the institution of the Supreme Court of the United States because we're unhappy with one of its opinions. I will withhold my objection at this time, Madam President, to allow my friend Senator Lee to speak.
Is there an objection?
Madam President.
Senator from Utah.
Reserving the right to object. The United States of America has benefited.
In the end, Senator Kennedy's remarks did more than just challenge a piece of legislation. They reminded the Senate and the American people of the importance of consistency and accountability in political leadership. By repeating Senator Schumer's own words, Kennedy forced the chamber to confront the tone and implications of statements made during a moment of intense national debate. His argument suggested that actions taken against the Supreme Court should not be driven by anger over a single ruling, but guided by respect for the independence of the judicial branch. Kennedy's speech resonated with many who believe that the balance of power between government institutions must be protected at all costs. Rather than launching personal attacks, he relied on documented statements and allowed those words to speak for themselves. That approach gave his message a level of credibility that was difficult for critics to dismiss. Supporters viewed the moment as a clear defense of the Constitution and the principle that courts must remain free from political retaliation. The standing ovation that followed was not just applause for a speech, it was recognition of a larger concern about preserving the integrity of the Supreme Court. Kennedy's calm delivery and sharp recall of past events turned what could have been an ordinary debate into a defining moment on the Senate floor. For many observers, it demonstrated how powerful the truth can be when it is simply repeated without embellishment. His remarks reminded lawmakers that words spoken in public carry lasting consequences. In the eyes of his supporters, Senator Kennedy stood firm for judicial independence, and that stand is exactly why his speech continues to resonate far beyond the walls of the Senate chamber.